Alright, how's it going guys? Skylights here to bring you another video on War Commander Rogue Assault, and in today's video I want to talk about the 4 elite units in the game that we have so far. And that is the old units that have received elite level promotions from level 10 to level 15 that drastically increases their power. And I'm going to be talking about whether they're worth getting, who should get it, when they should get it, and basically just where they should be on your priority list if you are going to put them on your list at all, which is the best way to put it. So yeah, the 4 units that have received elite level upgrades in the game are the Mantis, the Pansear, and then in the fixed wing class we got, we got the F-35A and the Ghost Rider. So, to start off, I'm going to talk about the Mantis first, just because it's new, and there's actually some ambiguity to whether you should get it, depending on where you are in the game. The other 3, different. I think the other 3 have different levels, belong to different levels of priority, but eventually everybody is going to need all of them maxed out. So, let's talk about the Mantis first. Basically, I feel like you should not invest in the elite upgrades for the Mantis, or even get the Mantis at all, if you do not use the Mantis to draw fire off of to protect your other heavy vehicles, mostly mobile artillery, mostly the HIMARS. By blocking salvo fire and chopper fire that's coming to them, and by distracting the attention of peacemakers. And what I mean by that is that if you're using the Mantis in that way, then you're probably using a platoon that looks something like this, where you would use these 2 Mantis by themselves would be used to draw fire off of peacemakers, while the HIMARS come in somewhere else to destroy turrets. And before you start doing that, to deal with the helipad defenders, you're going to park these 2 Mantis close to your Pansear, so that your Pansear doesn't die to very powerful helipad defenders that it actually can't directly fight back against. It's an anti-air weapon, but it's independently strong only against fixed wing units. Against very powerful helicopters, it does need Mantis to protect it. So yeah, this is a pretty old school strategy. I honestly have no idea how many people still use this. I do use it sometimes. I use it with paladins, but that's just because my Centurions are garbage right now. If they weren't, I would have not used my Mantis. So yeah, if you do not use this kind of platoon at all, and you never use your Mantis to like micromanage to draw fire off of peacemakers, to draw the attention of peacemakers and other very dangerous turrets off of your HIMARS or paladins, and this just does not sound familiar to you whatsoever, then you really should not invest in the Mantis. And as with some of the ideas for uses of a Mantis at the end game specifically, some players have mentioned that it might be good for protecting the Overlord from choppers or salvos, both of which are very deadly to heavy vehicles. And sometimes the Overlord, you really need it to survive for as long as it possibly can to destroy whatever targets that you want to destroy to set up for what comes next. That's usually a Ghost Rider mop-up. And to do that, it's much better to just use Grizzlies instead of the Overlord. Grizzlies are super convenient to use in conjunction with the Overlord, because when you select them both and you move them together, Grizzlies are faster than the Overlord, so the group that you selected is going to move at the Overlord speed, and it's not going to slow down your platoon whatsoever, whereas for the Mantis that is not the case. And also the Grizzly does target structures like most other units. The Mantis does not, so if you select the Overlord and the Mantis together and you tap on a structure, the way the Mantis moves is weird, and it usually leads to the Mantis either getting itself killed or staying too far behind to protect the Overlord. So yeah, protecting the Overlord, the Elite Mantis is not going to do very well, I feel like. And as for things like supporting FOB units, which fire a lot of rockets, the ATAC can have up to 2 rocket weapons, and the Grizzly has a rocket weapon too. So, you know, some players are thinking we might be able to use Mantis to block. You know, if you have your FOBs going up against the enemy's FOBs, you might be able to use your Mantis to give them an advantage. But the funny thing is that for the same capacity, you can put in a couple Grizzlies instead of a couple Mantis, and then you can send the Grizzlies at the ATACs, and instead of block their damage, you can outright kill them. And that's going to give your FOBs a much bigger edge, obviously. So yeah, it doesn't really make sense to upgrade the Mantis for that as well. And for lower level gameplay, if you're thinking that the Mantis is important for solely for protecting your units against helicopters, especially the Pansear, you can run, for the same capacity, you can run like two Striker IFVs per Mantis you remove from your platoon. And they can outright, they don't have to block the damage coming from the helicopters. They can, because they have rocket countermeasures as well, but they can just outright kill them because they do very high damage against helicopters, whereas the Mantis doesn't even have a lethal main weapon. It has a little minigun, and that's it. So yeah, that's basically everything you need to know about the Mantis. I spend a little bit too much time here. I promise you it will not be the same for the next 3 units. Those are way more straightforward. And something of note, this M196 minigun that is shared with the Leopard, you cannot equip this until your Mantis is promoted to level 15. This is not true for the Leopard. The Leopard, as soon as you unlock the equipment slot, for the secondary slot, for secondaries, you can immediately equip this thing if you have the blueprint. But for this one, even if you do have the blueprint, you're going to have to upgrade your Mantis to level 15 before you can equip it. So yeah, that's something to keep in mind. Moving on, the Pansear. So is this thing worth upgrading to level 15? Yes, and it's really for a very singular reason, to counter the Ghost Rider, especially Ghost Riders with their own elite upgrades. It's just impossible to kill otherwise. If you look at my base right now, I don't have any flaks except the heavy flak in the base. But what I do have is 5 level 13 Pansears, and that's where most of the damage against the Ghost Rider is going to come from. Having SAMs in my base or flaks in my base is almost meaningless now, because Ghost Riders with elite level upgrades, they're just basically impossible to kill using turrets, except the heavy flak. But the enemy is going to be working on destroying that before they come in. But it's much harder for them to destroy the War Factory and the heavy flak. And yeah, that's basically the only line of defense against the powerful Ghost Riders, is the Pansear. So that's why everybody eventually needs to have them. But as far as doing anything else goes, a level 10 Pantsir is usually enough for doing level 10 Pantsir with everything maxed out, all the equipment. It's usually enough for dealing with most, for doing every other job that the Pantsir can do. So killing helicopters, killing airfield defenders, helipad defenders, killing some helicopters on defense. It's usually, for those purposes, a level 15 Pansear is helpful, but it's usually way overkill. So I wouldn't worry too much about upgrading the Pansear from level 10 to level 15 until I hit CC 10. So that's what I'd recommend everyone to do, because if you're trying to fight back, or even CC 11, because if you're trying to fight back against a powerful Ghost Rider that requires a really powerful Pansear to take out, because you don't have any turrets that do meaningful damage to it. You have to make sure your War Factory survives. And I have a War Factory with 1.5 million health, but even the level 10 one only has 600k. And if you're CC 9 or below, your War Factory gets really, really weak, and the Pansear unlocks at CC 8. So if your War Factory doesn't survive for long enough, then it's actually not going to matter, because your Pansears aren't going to spawn, and at least not enough of them will spawn to actually take down the Ghost Rider. So yeah, I'd recommend leaving your Pansear at level 10, maybe a couple levels, just to get it to like level 11 or 12, just to increase its ability to survive against helicopters, if that is the only thing in your platoon that you're using to kill choppers, because sometimes using it as an anti-chopper defense, having done that for a while, I remember a lot of the time it gets really close to dying when it goes up against like powerful Super Hinds, even with the protection of Mantis. And yeah, the Grizzlies solved that problem, but if you don't have those yet and you do use your Pantsir that way, that's something that you can upgrade it for. But taking it to level 15 is very expensive. You guys can see the crit common and resource cost here. The resource cost did elevate, so yeah, I would say this one is going to be eventually required for everyone if you want to play at the end game. But if you're not at the end game yet, don't rush it. So, moving on, I'm going to talk about the Ghost Rider. Yeah, this is the big one that everybody wants to upgrade. But the thing is, taking this thing to level 15, not just to have, a couple elite levels, to take it to like 11 or 12 or 13, but taking it all the way to 15 should be lower on your priority list. One, because I think it's actually slightly more expensive than, it is significantly more expensive to take to level 15 than all the other units that receive elite levels. As you guys can see, 10 million thorium for level 12 to 13. The Pantsir doesn't even have that much, take that much to go to level 14. And there's more crits and more commons required as well. Yeah, so you shouldn't do it quickly because it's expensive, but also because it's unnecessary. And it doesn't actually expand your ability to fight, taking it from level, say, 13 to 15, even though there is a big bonus in DPS and health. If your Ghost Rider is already surviving to the end of every round, and it's already taking out all the buildings that you need to take it out, needed to take out, and yeah, there's no point in making it even stronger if it's already like doing its job perfectly, because due to the nature of this unit, you don't always benefit from making it stronger, because a lot of its job is cleaning up and fighting against things that don't actually do a whole lot of damage to it. Yeah, if you took care of the Pansears or the War Factory, and you took care of the heavy flak, you just call this thing in over and over again, and there's no reason to rush it to level 15 if it's already strong enough to clear the base in 5 minutes and survive to the end. So yeah, I mean, if that's already happening, like for my Ghost Rider, it's already happening a lot of the time, because I guess I'm better at taking care of the threats that are very dangerous to the Ghost Rider. But yeah, I mean, if I take mine to level 15 now, it's gonna allow me to use it more aggressively. But I don't have to do that. Yeah, I can call in a level 15 Ghost Rider on a heavy flak, on a level 3 heavy flak, on a level 5 heavy platform, and it might be able to solo that thing just by itself while losing half its health, because I've had people test that, and that actually can happen if you're lucky with where the heavy bombs drop. But it's not immediately necessary, because I don't have to do that. I have other units that I can use to take out the heavy flak, and this is not exactly how you want to be, how this unit is intended to be used, and it's usually always inefficient to use it super aggressively. Call it in at the very beginning of a round. So yeah, that's why you do want this thing at level 15, because if the heavy flak does survive a bit longer than you want it to, or the Pantsirs or the War Factory does survive for a little bit longer than you want it to, having a bit more health and a bit more damage on the main weapon for this thing might save the round, but that only happens at the very, very, very end of the game. This thing, even my current Ghost Rider, is extremely hard to kill. And yeah, it's just, this one is valuable, but it's not immediately mandatory, so don't rush this one either. And it's very expensive, so don't rush this. What I think everyone should rush to level 15 is the F-35A, as I have done so far already, because the F-35A, not only does it, first of all, the way that the F-35A works, the damage is very, very important. And it's important not as in it needs to have, having more damage is better, but its damage is only important when it hits certain marks, where it can destroy one F-35 or two F-35s can always destroy a specific type of target in one strike. So if you promote your F-35As to level 15 and you're going up against a base that has equal boost, you're actually going to be able to take out a level 11 War Factory using just two maxed out level 15 F-35s. And that is extremely powerful, guys. And you can also use the same two F-35s to take out a level 3 heavy flak on a level 5 heavy platform. So if you have a high level platoon, if you have a low level platoon that can fit 3 F-35s, you can take out, again, I'm talking mostly about the end game. You can take out one of the things I just mentioned, the War Factory or the heavy platform, and then plus another turret or something like that. And if you have two, if you have a platoon that allows you to run two sets of two F-35s, you can actually take out both of those things. And that's like, in the current meta, that's like 70% of the enemy's base defense gone instantly. And that is extremely valuable, and they can actually survive and come back around. And yeah, that's why the F-35A is, I think, is super powerful. It also gains 100 speed going from level 14 to level 15. And that's really the biggest level 15 bonus that any of the special level 15 bonus that any of the units have. The Pansear gains like range and speed. The Mantis gains like, I think, reload time or something like that. But this plus 100 speed, that practically increases the amount of, decreases the amount of damage that it takes by 1/3, because it decreases the amount of time it's going to stay in danger under fire by 1/3. And yeah, that is super powerful. And also, I've been talking mostly about the end game so far, but taking the F-35 really, really high is also useful before the end game. If you're playing at CC 7 to 9 or early CC 10, where you're not really going up against the big guys with big guns, and specifically because you can just call this thing in over and over and over and over again, because it's just at a point where it cannot die. And I haven't tried this yet, but I don't know if it might be possible to actually take out all the defenses in an entire base using level 15 F-35s, if the base isn't like completely jacked up with maxed CC-11 defenses, or half CC-10, half CC-11 defenses. If it's any weaker than that, that's something that could actually work, and all you have to deal with are like FOB reinforcements and stuff. So yeah, that's why the F-35 is super powerful, and I think this is really the most important elite unit upgrade. that you should get, and this is the one that you should upgrade as soon as possible to level 15. I guess you can make an exception for I can make an exception for lower level players, because if their F-35As are already taking out everything in one hit and it's not dying, or at least it's not dying before it takes out enough for a base to be cleared safely, then there's no point, you know. Try to use the F-35 at every level that you promote it to. Don't blitz a whole lot of money and then take it straight to level 15, because sometimes that's unnecessary, but eventually it is going to be useful. And this is, I think, the most valuable elite upgrade for all the 4 units that did get elite upgrades so far. So yes, that is the video on elite upgrades, guys. Seems like I did not make it as short and sweet as I wanted to. Kind of going to Reddit mode again, just using way more words than necessary. But yeah, I hope you guys appreciate the details. I'll try to learn how to make these kinds of guide videos a lot more concise in the future. But if I took up more of your time than you initially expected, I'm sorry about that. If this video helped you, please like and subscribe. If it has not, and you think I wasted a lot of your time and you think it sucked, go ahead and hit that dislike and make a mean comment, I guess. So yeah, that is it about the 4 elite units that we currently have in the game so far, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out.